Louis, let's start with the playground shooting in Scarborough. You know, you're a Scarborough guy. How is the community there processing this and dealing with something as brazen as this, shooting into a playground full of kids?
You know something, it depends on what community you are in. Violence is normalized in a lot of these communities. This does not surprise some of the kids, right? We were in a community in Scarborough, a playground, and it was totally empty on a midsummer day after school, during school vacation, and it was empty. And I said to the kids, why isn't anybody playing? They said, we cannot go into the playground because it's not safe. So they know this. When they're walking on the streets, they say they're more concerned with what's going on behind them than what's going on in front, right? These are children talking to us in Scarborough. So what happened yesterday, I know it was a shock to many people, but for a lot of people living in the communities, the level of violence and the brazenness of it is not a surprise to them anymore. These are children talking. They're supposed to be talking about, oh, they fell down and scratched their knee at school or whatever. This is not what they're talking about. It's about survival. It's about being at risk at any time of the day.
In the playground,
in the playground, no matter where it is, right? There's some community centers you have to key in to get into the community center. This is Scarborough.
It's not open doors.
No, as community center, the first word in community is community, right? So this is not a shock to a lot of the people. It's a shock to people that don't live in that type of environment. Right?
That's so sad though when you think about that. So I'm guessing this is one of the reasons you started Zero Gun Violence movement about 5 years ago. Do you think from start till now, has things gotten worse? Have they gotten better? Because I felt like as a crime reporter, I saw things get better for a little while, but now it seems like we're going backwards.
We're going backwards. The reason we're going backwards is because since 1913 to 1916, 3 years, we saw a 100% increase in gun violence, homicides.
So like 2013, you mean to 2016?
Yes,
okay.
We saw a 100% increase. It's just that it was spread out,
yes.
Right? It wasn't concentrated and it wasn't as brazen. Over the last couple of years, like we had a shooting in Yorkville the other day. We had one at Young and Dundas in broad daylight. So it's the brazenness of the shootings that should concern people, but there's a lot of other factors that are contributing to this increase in gun violence.
What are those factors? What do you think? What are you seeing on the ground level? Because I know you're a grassroots community guy. I've done work with you in communities over the years. What are you seeing from that grassroots level?
Look, it's scary, even for us. We work across the city of Toronto, not only in Scarborough. In the last 4 days, we've been in 4 different communities, right? What we're seeing is the access to guns has increased. And it's not small guns, it's semi-automatic. When kids are still saying it's easier for them to get a gun than a job, we got a problem. So the access to guns, the caliber of the guns, right? Semi-automatics in teenagers' hands, where did they get those guns from? The age of the kids handling the guns now has declined dramatically. Like it's young ones.
That's what we're hearing.
Teenage, right?
My sources are telling me they're getting younger and younger out there.
The brazen nature of the shootings. We had shootings last summer in parking lots also, but they were not reported or they didn't hit anybody, right? You know? So we began to see it, right? And then it's also the impact of social media.
Yes, because they're sending threats to each other. We hear online and then acting it out in the streets, or they're making a music video and then sending a threat and then somebody retaliates to that online threat.
That's exactly what's going on. And the political leadership and will and courage to address this issue has been missing. Like basically we're not seeing any political will to do anything about this. We can't run around and tell people that we live in a safe city when we know what's going on, right? Like there's a difference between living in Rosedale and Rexdale. Right? When you live in Rosedale, you have high expectations, right? Your resources, your support, your family structure, everything is there. You don't have to worry about this. But in Rexdale, it's a total opposite. So this is not something that we have a monopoly on this thinking or knowledge. The police know it, the politicians know it, the media knows it, but who's doing what is necessary to close that gap?
What is necessary? Well, I know you're doing your part. You're out there working with youth doing your part. What do we need to do as a community, everybody involved, to try to stem this tide?
There's many things that need to be done, but what needs to start with, we need to throw away all the old reports, analysis, and data. Things have changed dramatically. So we need to bring all the stakeholders back to the table, whether they're academics, whether it's policing, whether it's government, whether it's media, whether it's family, services, supports, we need to bring them on the table.
Faith leaders, everybody.
Faith, like we couldn't have had the civil rights movement in the United States of America without the faith community at the forefront. Where are they today? So we need to take another look at this problem. So zero gun violence movement is about education and awareness. What's really going on? Because these people are making decisions to deal with this issue and they don't know the magnitude of the problem, right? So we need to bring them back to the table and we say, what's going on in 2018? Why is it normalized in certain communities and we're not doing what we're supposed to do? Why are the kids living in fear? Why are they terrorized, right? Why are the parents terrorized about leaving their kids out at night, right? Toronto's an incredible city. We're #1 ranked in so many categories on an international scale. But which part of the city are we talking about?
When you have a 5-year-old getting shot in the playground?
It's a 5 and an 8-year-old.
9, yeah, 5 and a 9-year-old.
Imagine what's going on in that community right now. We see other communities where shootings have taken place and they're living in fear. They can't be normal, right?
Yeah,
and then
we cannot let this become normal in our town.
But we cannot. But who is responsible? Who should be held accountable? Because this isn't something that just popped out of the blue. This has been building up. And as I said, the political leaders have chosen to treat it as a hot potato or as kryptonite. I don't want to deal with it because it's too complex. No, this is where I expect you to roll up your sleeve and get involved in finding a solution. You can't be talking about, well, I'm going to send a letter to the chief or I'm going to send a letter to the Minister of Community Center in Ottawa to deal with this issue. No, you've got socioeconomic conditions in your city that you have control over that you should be dealing with. The gun supply problem, yes, it is a problem. That's a federal issue. Let Ralph Goodale and his people deal with that, right? Guns are coming in.
But there are things we can do right here in our town now.
It's economics. It's let's talk economics. Economics is about supply and demand, right? Increase supply, increase demand. So what's happening is the supply of guns on the street has increased. The demand for the guns has increased because a lot of people are living in poverty. A lot of people are living in these communities where there's no way out. So the demand for guns increases, the supply increases. What do you think is going to happen? So why is it a surprise to these political leaders that we entrust to keep us all safe? Not only certain people, but we're us all safe.
Appreciate your time and your insight and the work that you do on a daily basis to try to stop this from happening.
Yeah, we don't have a choice. Either we're part of the solution or we're part of the problem.
Thank you.
Period.
Appreciate your time, sir.